about choices, no doubt.
Choices.
Looking at your life from the inside.
That's right.
Life's about choices, no doubt. Looking at your life from the inside. Life's about choices, no doubt.
Speak on it.
Looking at your life from the inside. Life's about choices, no doubt.
West side.
Looking at your life from the inside.
Family, it's your boy, Lamont Faison, with You Versus Yourself podcast, where the truth and you collide. If you like my content, please like and subscribe to my channel. And remember, I'm still in the building.
Family, it's your boy, Lamont Faison. You will know I'm in the building with another episode of You Versus Yourself podcast, where the truth and you collide. Listen, I got a doozy for you today. I am excited about this individual because this is somebody who helped save my life early on in the 90s. And I'm very excited to have him on. So without further ado, I'm going to allow him to introduce himself and tell us what's his background.
How you doing, sir?
I'm good, sir. I'm glad you're here today.
Thank you.
Byron, we go way back. Yes, way back to the early 90s. But before I get into that, I want you to talk to the people, tell them who you are, what's your background, and how we actually met initially.
Okay. My name is Byron Stringer. I'm a retired Metro police officer. I served for Metro, promoted to the rank of sergeant for 26 and a half years. They asked me, why did I want to be a cop when they recruited me from Rancho High School? And I said, because I want to make a difference and I want to help people. And that is still how I feel. I want to make a difference. And I've always wanted to help people. I'm also a playwright. My father was a pastor of a church. And so if he wanted to illustrate something, he would always get all his kids together. And if we had to be the wise men, we had to find enough sheets around the house and wrap ourselves up and come up with our lines and our costumes. And then we would kind of act it out in church. And that just kind of made me helped me to understand that people understand things when you do illustrations. I just loved it. And so I start in high school, in Rancho High School. I'd sit under the trees with the other nerds and we'd write poems and little skits and songs. And before I realized it, I found out that I had a knack for just writing plays. And I think that is how we met. It was at Mountaintop. I had did a play and I forget which one. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, you did plays, and I think back then I was rapping. Pastor used to bring me up to rap all the time.
I remember.
And I did poetry. So, and that's how I met him. I think also, Byron, weren't you in the choir?
I was in the choir. Well, I was in the choir. I was the armor bearer. I was on the intercessory prayer team. I worked the prayer room. I did baptisms. I was a Sunday school teacher. I not only was in the choir, I was a choir director. And then I worked on security, which is the Armor of God ministry. So you name it, I was there. And that's what happens when you're a preacher's kid. You just get in church and everybody wants you to be involved in everything.
Right. And that's how we met. And the interesting thing about that, ladies and gentlemen, is that early in 1990, I had got myself in a situation. Now, I knew Byron from church, and I knew that he was an officer. I had got myself in a situation in another state, and I didn't take care of my responsibility. When I got to Colorado, I had a warrant for my arrest. And I already had dealt with that situation, but somehow they did not take me out of the system. And I ended up getting picked up by the FBI at the school district. And then when it happened, I got down there. I think I called Byron. I said, Byron, man, this stuff is already handled. And Byron went to work for me to find out what was going on. And what ultimately happened, that state took me out of the system and said, we don't want him. And I never forget that. It kind of coincides with Byron was talking about just now with his mindset to help people. And that's who he is. I didn't know him that well. He felt that there was an injustice and he needed to do something about that. And he had the ability to do that. And I told him a few months ago, I said, do you remember that? Because I never will in my life forget it. And I do believe when opportunities come for you to give back, and to assist and encourage and inspire other people, considering yourself where you come from. And here's what's also interesting. Because he has that gift of helps, there was an incident a couple of years ago, I believe, somebody on the freeway was attempting suicide. Byron, tell us about that story where the man was on the freeway trying to jump off the bridge.
Driving over the bridge over the 95 at Lake Mead. People are coming and going on both sides, walking over the bridge on the sidewalk. There's one guy just sitting there, just kind of looking out at traffic, but it was way down on the lower part. So as I drive up, and instantly in my spirit, my heart felt like it was falling out of my chest. And I knew that there was an emergency. I didn't know what it was. And I'm like, I gotta pull over. I got to get out of my car. I got to walk back. That guy that I just saw, something is wrong. Part of me was thinking when I get up there, parked my car, got up with my bad knee and everything. I'm walking up the hill. By the time I get there, he was no longer sitting there. Now at this point, the guy is standing behind. His name is Christian. I say his name. His name is Christian. So Christian is standing. You know how they have the fence that goes along to keep people from falling over onto the freeway?
Yes.
He's up the outside of it on the freeway side. And for about the first 10 minutes, he didn't even want to talk. And here I am trying to talk with him. Finally got him talking. Highway Patrol showed up about 15 minutes later. And the whole time, it was an officer named Chris Black, who is a beautiful spirit, excellent law enforcement officer. Chris Black and I were there for about 2 hours talking this man down. And here he is scaling, going from one side to trying to get to the other, trying to get to the middle because he wanted to let go and then just let cars run over him. Highway Patrol ended up shutting down the 95 on at 4 o'clock. At 4 o'clock, rush hour, they shut down the 95 both ways. We ended up getting a fire truck with one of those cherry pickers. It came up and I said, when these officers come, they're on our side, they're on our team. Don't fight them, get in. And that's what he did, and we saved his life. It was very emotional. I did not know what I was getting into. And the whole time that I was talking to him, I'm talking to God in my head. I'm like, God, why'd you put me in this situation? This is a lot to handle. You know, sometimes when God leads you into a situation, you might think that you're not equipped, but God will give you what you need at that moment and what to say. So It's not for you to try to figure everything out. Just show up. If we can show up, then that's all we got to do. I don't have superpowers. I'm a regular person. Don't look with your eyes, look with your heart. And then you'll see what's going on. His life, and Highway Patrol called and said that they want to put me in for a life-saving award, which was very humbling.
Wow. In the Black community, policemen get a lot of bad raps. And I'm not saying we don't create some of that, because I used to work for the Department of Corrections. Sometimes it's certain officers that do that and give the rest of the agency a bad name. But it's important to understand that individuals are people. And just because one or two or three people operate in a certain way does not, disparage the whole department. There was another situation. You had a lady who you helped, and I'm not going to say her name based on the information we talked about earlier, that you have helped, and later on in life, she wanted to thank you. Tell me how that went.
Her name is, I can say her name is Sharon J. That's how we refer to her.
Okay.
When I was working for Metro early on, I did a lot of undercover work. And so I'd be out there in plain clothes, acting like I was drunk or slinging or banging or whatever, on the streets, just trying to get information, just trying to clean up the streets. And so we're just trying to think outside the box. And plus, anyway, I kind of had a knack for acting anyway. And so
Right.
we get out there, and there was one person out there all the time. Sharon was always out there, she was always drunk, but always on the street. And she became our friend, even though when you give information to the police, some people would say you're an informant, but she was always my friend. And I think because I treated her like a friend with respect, that our friendship evolved into a real friendship versus just like, I see you on the streets. You know what? When officers treat people with love, dignity, and respect, it goes a long way. Just because they're on the street doesn't make you better than them, because they live in the hood, or they don't have a car, they're riding the bus, or because of the color of their skin or the religion or where they live. It doesn't make us better, or it doesn't make them less than us. So when you show respect, people remember that. And Sharon was out there and she would give us information about what's happening on the streets, and it led to several arrests. And she was being a good citizen. She was being a good citizen and making a difference. And I would always say, Sharon, don't you want to get off the streets? Don't you want to not be drunk sometimes? Don't you want to go back to your kids in Texas? You got family. You talk about them all the time. Don't you want to go back? And one day she disappeared. We didn't know where she was. She showed back up 6 years later at the police department with a box full of trophies, one trophy for everybody that was on our squad. And since then, every year or every other year, she has been showing up with trophies for me. This was the 25-year trophy that she gave me. If you look on the bookshelf behind me, you'll see a couple more. I have tons of them, big, tall ones, as tall as like 5 feet tall. She sent all those, and they basically say, "Sir Byron Stringer," she always called me sir. "Thank you for inspiring me to turn my life around 25 years ago." At this point, it's been 32 years that she's been clean and sober. It's a blessing when somebody says you inspired them, you helped make a difference in their life. I talk to Sharon all the time. Last year, I surprised her. She had a surprise birthday party. And so I showed up in Texas and I surprised her. It's the blessing. The blessing is that God can use you to touch somebody's life, and that you can really make a difference. I got people in my own family who are living in addiction. And I'm just praying that God sends somebody their way that will listen, that will say what he wants them to say at that time to make a difference in their life. I got brothers, I got cousins, I got uncles, aunties who are on the streets, who are living in addiction, who don't want to listen. And we need more people to show up to have an open heart so that God can use them. To know that she's been clean and sober for this many years, and for her to say, "You inspired me to do that."
Let me tell you something.
So,
I cry often because the gratitude that I have and my thankfulness to the Creator. Because I'll say this again, I get inspired by stories like that. I had a podcast I did with a young lady a couple of days ago, and she was talking about how I inspired her. I didn't take that as, oh, I'm the big shot. What I took it as, thank you, God, because I was once in a situation and made some bad choices, and some people counted me out. And now you put me in the business of assisting and encouraging and rooting for people. And now you come on the show about the people that God used you to assist, and they're still operating in gratitude all these years later. And in my business with domestic violence, we deal with a lot of people who deal with addictions as well. So to hear somebody that's been sober for that many years and you change their life, it is an awesome and it's amazing thing. And I want to commend you on that. Not that you're all puffed up, but continue to do what the Creator called you to do. All right. And I think that's extremely important. And that's why I brought Byron on here. Because again, police get a lot of bad raps. And I want the audience to understand that you may have had an incident with someone. I don't care if it's an officer or individual, whoever it is, but it do not paint the whole race, do not paint the whole group as the same. Byron, when you was there as a sergeant in law enforcement, do they teach that in the academy classes that we're not better than other people? We're here to protect and serve.
yes, they do teach it. Absolutely. Does everybody hear it?
Mm.
And do you hear it all the time? Is it something that you turn up the volume and you hear it and you see it at selective moments, but in certain communities, you turn down the volume, you don't hear it, you don't see them as people, you see them as animals?
Mm.
Yeah. See
Byron.
people as people all the time. Show them respect, even though they're cussing you out. They're saying what they're going to do to your family, how they're going to blow you up and kill you, and slice you up and all that kind of stuff. When they start talking that way, just like, man, you must really be hurting. You must really be going through something. You know how many times I've taken people to jail and they've asked me to pray for them?
Mm,
They said,
wow.
before we go in, officer, will you please say a prayer for me? I can't tell you how many times. And I'm not coming at them preachy. I'm just talking to them from my heart. I'm just being real. And because we don't have a whole lot of time. We don't have a whole lot of time from wherever I picked you up to getting you to the jail and booking you in there. We don't have a whole lot of time. So I need to speak from the heart. I need to be sincere, and we need to get to the point because time is of the essence, because your life is hanging in the balance.
Wow. Well, Byron, I appreciate you for coming on the show. And I do want to give you the last word. And I want my audience to understand that this guy right here, I believe he has the gift of helps. It started with me a long time ago when I always say that guy saved my life. And I'm just talking about the incident in itself. And I could have been locked up, incarcerated, and never been able to go to school, to graduate from college and be a counselor. Right. So that's why I wanted him on here. And I want to thank you in front of everybody. And whoever's going to see this video, I thank you for assisting me. I thank you for having that attitude that I don't look down on people because of the situation. I said, I wasn't going to do this.
When you called me and asked me for help,
Mm,
I jumped right to it. You want to know why? Because I knew your character.
yeah.
When you said that wasn't me, and you said something earlier, and I have to address it. You said, because I didn't handle my responsibility. Those are your words. You thought it was your fault. And I told you, even all those years ago, I said, they messed up. They messed up in the system. But a lot of times, Black and brown people are oftentimes overlooked. And there's a lot of people that get messed up over the paperwork is messed up. Nobody pushed the button and changed this and changed that. And people's lives are ruined. And here they had you. Your life is in the balance. And they're saying, you're the bad guy. And you're saying, I took care of that. I'm not the bad guy. You guys have gotten the information wrong. I knew your character. And because of your character, because of who you are, because of who you were, I said, absolutely, I'm going to fight until this thing is done. And that was it. I said, he told me it wasn't him. I believe him. That's what I told everybody. I said, I know him. I believe him. I don't care what the computer says. It's wrong. Now let's fix it. And when you got out, I was just so happy. And I just went on with my life, not even realizing the impact that it had. And I'm grateful that you are grateful. And I'm grateful that God used me at that moment.
Yeah, I do. I appreciate that. I said I wasn't going to be crying today, but I know time I talk about this topic and the gratitude that I have because I watch so many people get into a situation who may have not done it and don't have the resources or someone on the inside fighting for them and say, nope, that wasn't this individual. Nope, that was taken care of. And so I really do appreciate that. My clients come in, I'm just like you. I have that same spirit. I'm only here to talk to you. I'm not here to judge you. That's all.
There's so many ways that we can be a blessing, but we get so caught up into ourselves when the real reason for us being here is to make a difference in this world and for God to speak to us and for us to listen. When we listen, the world will be a better place.
Byron Stringer, ladies and gentlemen. And I appreciate you coming on, Byron. And to my audience, I'm still your boy, Lamont Faison. And you know what I always say, being calm is cool.